Vulnerability is often seen as a weakness, but in reality, it is one of the greatest strengths a person can possess. It takes immense courage to admit when we're struggling, to express our fears, or to share a part of ourselves that feels fragile. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you create deeper connections with others and with yourself. It's in those moments of raw honesty that real growth happens, because you're no longer hiding behind a mask of invincibility. You allow yourself to feel, to be human. However, vulnerability doesn't mean you open yourself up without discretion. That's where boundaries come in. Boundaries are about protecting your emotional and mental health. When you set boundaries, you acknowledge that while it's important to express your feelings, it's equally important to control the environment and the people with whom you share those feelings. Not everyone deserves access to your most intimate thoughts or struggles. Boundaries act as a filter. They help you decide what to share and what to keep private, ensuring that vulnerability doesn't become a doorway for others to take advantage of your openness. In embracing vulnerability, you don't make yourself a victim to your emotions or to the opinions of others. Instead, you recognize the importance of owning your emotional experience, while also knowing when and where to draw the line. This balance between openness and protection empowers you to be authentic without losing yourself in the process. When vulnerability is coupled with boundaries, it becomes an act of strength, allowing you to show up fully as yourself while maintaining control over how much of yourself you choose to reveal. Inner resilience is not something you are born with. It is something you build over time, shaped by your experiences, challenges, and even failures. At its core, resilience is the ability to adapt and bounce back when life knocks you down. It's not about avoiding pain or difficulty, but about developing the capacity to rise each time you fall. Resilience comes from learning how to face adversity without allowing it to define you. It's in the moments of struggle, discomfort, and uncertainty that your true strength is forged. To build inner resilience, the first step is recognizing that challenges are a natural part of life. No one escapes hardship, but the way you perceive it determines how it affects you. If you view obstacles as threats, they will feel overwhelming and insurmountable. But if you shift your mindset to see them as opportunities for growth, they become less intimidating. Each challenge then becomes a lesson, a stepping stone toward becoming stronger, wiser, and more capable. Developing this mindset takes practice. It involves reframing your thoughts when things go wrong, acknowledging the emotions that come with failure, and consciously deciding to look for the lessons embedded in those moments. Another critical aspect of inner resilience is cultivating self-awareness. You need to understand your emotional triggers, your strengths, and your limitations. When you know yourself deeply, you can better manage how you respond to life's difficulties. Self-awareness allows you to recognize when you're feeling overwhelmed or vulnerable, and it gives you the tools to navigate those emotions without letting them take over. Being aware of your own emotional patterns gives you the power to pause, reflect, and choose how you respond, rather than reacting impulsively or destructively. Resilience also requires emotional flexibility. Life is unpredictable and things rarely go exactly as planned. Being able to adapt to change is a cornerstone of resilience. Flexibility doesn't mean abandoning your goals or giving up on your dreams. It means adjusting your approach when the path you're on isn't working. It's the ability to shift gears without losing sight of where you're headed. Emotional flexibility allows you to stay focused and persistent, even when circumstances force you to change course. Instead of seeing detours as failures, you come to understand that they are part of the journey. In addition to adaptability, resilience is about developing a sense of self-compassion. Too often, when we face setbacks, our first instinct is to criticize ourselves for not being good enough, strong enough, or prepared enough. But building inner resilience means learning to treat yourself with kindness, especially in moments of difficulty. Self-compassion involves recognizing that everyone makes mistakes, everyone has moments of weakness, and that doesn't make you any less capable. It's about giving yourself permission to struggle, to be imperfect, and to heal at your own pace. When you practice self-compassion, you create an internal environment where resilience can thrive because you're no longer tearing yourself down in the face of challenges. Instead, you're building yourself up, encouraging yourself to keep moving forward. Another key to building inner resilience is developing a support system. While resilience is an internal quality, it is often strengthened through connection with others. Having people you can turn to in times of need, whether they are friends, family, mentors, or colleagues, can provide the emotional and mental support necessary to keep going when things get tough. But it's not just about leaning on others, it's also about recognizing that you don't have to carry your burdens alone. Resilience doesn't mean isolating yourself or pretending you have it all together. It means knowing when to ask for help and being open to receiving it. A strong support system serves as a reminder that you are not alone, that there are people who care about you and are willing to walk alongside you through life's difficulties. Additionally, resilience is built through a consistent practice of self-care. Taking care of your physical, emotional, and mental well-being is not a luxury, it's a necessity. When you prioritize self-care, you are better equipped to handle stress and adversity. This could mean getting enough sleep, eating nutritious food, exercising regularly, or engaging in activities that bring you joy and relaxation. Self-care also involves protecting your mental health by setting boundaries, reducing exposure to negative influences, and giving yourself time to recharge. Building resilience requires energy, and you can't build it if you're constantly running on empty. Detaching from external validation is one of the most liberating and transformative steps you can take toward living an authentic life. So much of our self-worth is often tied to the opinions, judgments, and approval of others, and this dependence can be incredibly limiting. When we seek external validation, we allow the perceptions of others to dictate our sense of value, our choices, and ultimately our happiness. The desire for approval, praise, and recognition can become a trap, shaping our actions, thoughts, and even our identities to fit into the expectations of those around us. However, true freedom comes when you can detach from the need for external approval and learn to validate yourself from within. At the root of the need for external validation is often a lack of self-confidence or self-acceptance. We look to others to tell us who we are or how much we are worth, because deep down we may not fully believe in our own value. We crave approval, compliments, or positive feedback to reinforce our sense of self. But when you base your self-worth on external sources, you hand over the power of your identity to other people, which is inherently unstable. People's opinions are fickle, they change with trends, circumstances, and their own biases. What pleases someone today may disappoint them tomorrow. If you live for external validation, you are constantly chasing after something that is outside your control, and it can lead to a life of anxiety, insecurity, and dissatisfaction. Detaching from external validation starts with understanding that your worth is intrinsic. You are valuable simply because you exist, not because of what others think of you. This is a mindset shift that requires you to stop measuring your value through the lens of others and start cultivating an internal sense of self-worth. It means recognizing that you don't need anyone's approval to feel good about yourself. The validation you seek must come from within, rooted in a strong belief in who you are, what you stand for, and what you bring to the world. When you develop this inner sense of validation, you become less vulnerable to the opinions of others because you're no longer dependent on them for your self-esteem. Part of detaching from external validation is learning to trust yourself. You have to develop the confidence to make decisions based on what you believe is right, rather than what others expect or want from you. This means being willing to go against the grain, to say no when it's necessary, and to pursue paths that may not always be popular. It's about understanding that no one knows your journey as well as you do. When you seek validation externally, you're asking others to approve decisions that they don't fully understand. Trusting yourself means being willing to stand firm in your choices, even when others disagree or don't offer the support you might have hoped for. This trust in yourself is a critical part of emotional freedom. It allows you to live a life that is true to you, rather than one shaped by the expectations of others. Another element of detaching from external validation is recognizing that the opinions of others are often a reflection of them, not you. People see the world through their own filters, shaped by their own experiences, fears, and insecurities. When someone criticizes or judges you, it's often more about their own internal struggles than it is about anything you've done. Understanding this can help you take other people's opinions less personally. It frees you from the emotional roller coaster of constantly seeking to please or impress others. You realize that no matter what you do, some people will approve and others will not, and that's okay. Your value doesn't rise or fall based on someone else's perspective. Detaching from external validation also involves becoming comfortable with discomfort. The truth is, letting go of the need for approval can be uncomfortable at first. We are social beings, and it's natural to want to be liked and accepted. But when you prioritize your own approval over that of others, you may face criticism, rejection, or even isolation at times. This discomfort is part of the process, and it's important to learn to sit with it without allowing it to derail you. The more you practice relying on your own sense of worth, the less you'll need others to confirm it. Eventually, the discomfort will lessen, and you'll find a sense of peace in knowing that your value comes from within. Practicing self-validation is key to this detachment. This means acknowledging your own achievements, recognizing your growth, and celebrating your strengths without needing anyone else to do it for you. You become your own source of encouragement and affirmation. Instead of seeking compliments or approval from others, you learn to give it to yourself. This practice builds your internal sense of validation and strengthens your confidence. You start to realize that you don't need anyone else to tell you that you're good enough. You know it for yourself. Finally, detaching from external validation doesn't mean you shut out feedback or ignore other people's perspectives entirely. It's not about becoming indifferent to what others think, but about understanding that their opinions are not the ultimate measure of your worth. You can listen to feedback with an open mind, take what resonates, and leave the rest behind. The key is that you're no longer relying on that feedback to define you. You take ownership of your own narrative, deciding for yourself who you are and what you're worth. Reframing negative experiences is a powerful mental shift that can transform the way you engage with life's challenges. Every person goes through moments of pain, disappointment, and hardship, but it's not the experiences themselves that define us, it's the meaning we attach to them. When faced with adversity, our initial reaction is often to see it as something purely negative, something that causes us suffering or holds us back. However, by reframing these experiences, you can begin to see them as opportunities for growth, learning, and self-discovery, rather than as roadblocks to your success or happiness. The first step in reframing negative experiences is recognizing that your perspective is not fixed. Just because a situation feels difficult or overwhelming doesn't mean that it has to remain that way in your mind. You have the ability to change the narrative you tell yourself about what's happening. Instead of seeing a failure as a reflection of your inadequacy, you can reframe it as valuable feedback, a chance to learn what didn't work so you can improve and do better next time. When you begin to view setbacks as stepping stones rather than dead ends, you reclaim control over how those experiences shape you. Reframing negative experiences requires you to adopt a mindset of curiosity rather than judgment. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me, or what did I do wrong, you shift to questions like, what can I learn from this? And how can this help me grow? This approach allows you to detach from the emotional weight of the situation and approach it with a sense of openness. You begin to look for the lessons hidden within the hardship, rather than getting stuck in the pain or frustration of it. Curiosity leads to growth, while judgment only leads to self-doubt and fear. By staying curious, you give yourself the freedom to explore new possibilities, even within negative situations. Another important aspect of reframing negative experiences is focusing on what you can control. Often when things go wrong, we fixate on the elements of the situation that are outside of our control, what other people did, circumstances that seemed unfair, or outcomes that didn't go as planned. This kind of thinking leaves us feeling powerless. But when you reframe the experience, you shift your attention to what is within your control, your response, your attitude, and the actions you take moving forward. This empowers you to take responsibility for your own growth, regardless of what happened. You can't always control the circumstances, but you can always control how you choose to perceive and respond to them. By focusing on what you can change, you turn a negative experience into a catalyst for positive action. Reframing also involves recognizing the impermanence of negative experiences. In the heat of a difficult moment, it's easy to feel like the pain or struggle will last forever. But when you step back and gain perspective, you realize that no experience, positive or negative, is permanent. Everything in life is fluid, and even the most challenging situations eventually pass. When you reframe a negative experience with this in mind, you begin to see it as a temporary obstacle rather than a defining moment. This perspective can give you the emotional space to move through the experience with more resilience and less anxiety, knowing that it is part of a larger journey rather than the end of the road. Another critical element of reframing is finding meaning in the hardship. Viktor Frankl, a renowned psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, once said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." This idea is central to reframing negative experiences. It's not about denying the reality of the pain or pretending everything is fine. It's about asking yourself what meaning or purpose can be found in the struggle. What strength are you developing? What new perspective are you gaining? How is this experience shaping you into a more compassionate, resilient, or wise person? Finding meaning in adversity doesn't take away the difficulty, but it allows you to move through it with a sense of purpose, which can be incredibly healing and transformative. Reframing also involves understanding that negative experiences often provide the contrast needed to fully appreciate positive ones. Without moments of struggle, we wouldn't have the same capacity to value success, joy, or peace. Hardship, in many ways, gives us a deeper sense of gratitude for the good things in life. When you reframe a negative experience with this in mind, you begin to see it as part of the natural ebb and flow of life, an essential part of the human experience. This perspective not only helps you endure difficult times, but also enriches your appreciation for the moments of light and joy that follow. Part of reframing negative experiences is embracing the idea that growth often comes through discomfort. Personal growth rarely happens when we're comfortable or when everything is going smoothly. It's the challenges, the setbacks, and the failures that force us to stretch beyond what we thought we were capable of. Reframing a negative experience means acknowledging that this discomfort is a sign of growth and progress. You begin to understand that the very things you once saw as obstacles are actually opportunities to become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. The discomfort becomes less threatening when you see it as a necessary part of becoming the person you're meant to be. Reframing also means letting go of the idea that you have to have everything figured out. Negative experiences often make us feel like we've lost control, or that we don't have all the answers, and that can be deeply unsettling. But when you reframe these moments, you start to see that not having all the answers is okay. In fact, uncertainty is often where the most profound learning and transformation occur. When you release the pressure to have everything figured out and allow yourself to embrace the unknown, you create space for new insights, new directions, and new possibilities to emerge. Practicing emotional regulation is a skill that can fundamentally change how you navigate life's ups and downs. Emotional regulation is not about suppressing or denying your emotions. It's about developing the ability to experience, understand, and manage your emotions in a healthy, productive way. Life is full of trigger situations, people, and events that can stir up a range of emotions, from joy to anger, from sadness to fear. Emotional regulation allows you to respond to these emotions with intention rather than reacting impulsively or allowing them to control your behavior. At the core of emotional regulation is self-awareness. You cannot regulate what you do not recognize. Often we move through life on autopilot, reacting to situations without fully understanding what we're feeling or why. Practicing emotional regulation begins with tuning into your emotional landscape. This means becoming aware of your emotions as they arise and naming them, whether it's frustration, anxiety, excitement, or confusion. By identifying what you're feeling, you give yourself the opportunity to pause and reflect before reacting. It's in this pause that emotional regulation happens. Instead of being swept away by the emotion, you create space between the feeling and the action. Emotional regulation also involves understanding the difference between experiencing an emotion and being consumed by it. Emotions are natural and necessary. They provide us with information about our environment and ourselves. However, when we let emotions take over, they can cloud our judgment, affect our decision-making, and strain our relationships. Practicing emotional regulation means acknowledging your emotions without letting them dictate your actions. For example, you might feel angry during a conflict, but rather than lashing out or shutting down, you can choose to take a breath, assess the situation, and respond in a way that aligns with your values and long-term goals. The ability to make this shift from reaction to thoughtful response is at the heart of emotional regulation. One of the key aspects of emotional regulation is recognizing that emotions, while powerful, are temporary. No feeling lasts forever. Often, in the heat of a moment, an emotion can feel overwhelming, as if it will never pass. But when you practice emotional regulation, you remind yourself that emotions are like waves. They rise, peak, and eventually subside. This awareness helps you avoid making rash decisions based on temporary feelings. Instead of reacting impulsively, you can sit with the emotion, allow it to run its course, and then decide how to proceed once it has passed. This ability to ride the emotional wave without being swept away by it is a hallmark of emotional intelligence. Emotional regulation also involves developing strategies to manage intense emotions in a healthy way. This could mean using techniques such as deep breathing, mindfulness, or grounding exercises to calm yourself when emotions are running high. It could also involve physical activity such as going for a walk or engaging in a workout to release pent-up energy. Everyone has different tools that work for them, but the key is to have a set of practices that you can turn to when emotions start to feel overwhelming. These strategies are not about avoiding or suppressing emotions, but rather about creating a sense of calm and clarity so that you can handle the situation with more balance and thoughtfulness. Another important aspect of emotional regulation is learning to accept your emotions without judgment. Too often, we label certain emotions as good and others as bad. We may feel ashamed for feeling angry or guilty for feeling sad. And this judgment only intensifies the emotional experience. Emotional regulation involves letting go of these judgments and recognizing that all emotions are valid. They are simply signals from your mind and body indicating something about your experience. When you stop judging your emotions, you can approach them with curiosity and compassion rather than shame or frustration. This acceptance is a critical part of emotional regulation as it allows you to work with your emotions rather than fighting against them. Practicing emotional regulation also means becoming attuned to the triggers that set off certain emotional responses. Often, our reactions are linked to deeper patterns or unresolved issues from our past. For instance, a seemingly minor comment from a coworker might trigger a strong emotional response, not because of the comment itself, but because it taps into an old wound or insecurity. When you practice emotional regulation, you begin to identify these patterns and understand the deeper reasons behind your emotional reactions. This awareness allows you to approach your emotions with more compassion and self-understanding rather than feeling overwhelmed or confused by them. Emotional regulation is also about learning to communicate your emotions in a healthy way. Unregulated emotions can lead to outbursts, withdrawal, or passive-aggressive behavior, which can damage relationships and create misunderstandings. Practicing emotional regulation means learning to express what you're feeling without blaming, attacking, or shutting down. It involves using I statements such as I feel frustrated when ... to share your emotions in a way that invites connection and understanding rather than conflict. This kind of communication fosters healthier relationships and helps you get your emotional needs met more effectively. In addition, emotional regulation helps you to maintain perspective during challenging situations. When emotions run high, it's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture and become consumed by the immediate intensity of the moment. However, emotional regulation allows you to step back and gain a broader view. You recognize that while a situation may be difficult right now, it does not define your entire experience or future. This shift in perspective can help you stay grounded and centered even in the face of adversity, and it prevents you from making decisions that you might later regret. Lastly, practicing emotional regulation builds resilience. Life is full of unpredictable twists and turns, and emotional regulation equips you with the tools to navigate these changes with more ease and grace. It's not about eliminating difficult emotions, but about developing the capacity to move through them without being derailed. Over time, this practice strengthens your emotional stamina, allowing you to bounce back more quickly from setbacks and approach challenges with greater confidence. In summary, learning to act as if nothing bothers you is not about suppressing emotions but mastering them. It involves embracing vulnerability while setting firm boundaries, building inner resilience through intentional growth, and detaching from the need for external validation. By reframing negative experiences, you transform challenges into opportunities for learning and growth. Practicing emotional regulation equips you with the tools to manage your emotions, enabling you to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. This journey is about cultivating inner strength, allowing you to maintain your peace and purpose even in the face of adversity. Acting as if nothing bothers you is not about indifference, it's about developing the emotional agility and mindset to rise above life's distractions and difficulties while staying true to your values and grounded in your sense of self. It's a practice of inner power, self-awareness, and authentic confidence that leads to greater fulfillment and resilience.